This is Kurt Gowdy Shark Hunting. In this segment, I will be giving you a rundown of what you will need while shark fishing. And this counts for fishing from a boat and fishing from the shore. The most important thing is you need 480-pound wire, at least, for the bigger sharks. That's what I like using. That's what I've always used, and it hasn't failed me yet. I haven't had a single break off with this stuff. The smaller leaders have had break off after break off because the shark just swallows it and just cuts the leader. Before I can engage the reel, including one instance where I had a giant shark off the beaches of Azteque, and I'm packing up. I go to the car, I come back, and the line just slack. I reel in the line, and a big shark came by, swallowed the entire leader, and cut me off right there within seconds. I didn't hear the line go off. It was so quick. And so that's why you gotta always pay attention. I've learned that, and I've also had them shred the cable leader using smaller leaders such as that. So thick leaders are an essential point. You're gonna need a mono shock leader, and on spinning tackle such as that, I like using about an 8-foot wind-on leader. You combine 30 feet, and then you cut them down to about 8 feet. They cast very, very well. And you can they work really, really well, and you can easily hand line the fish when you get them close. 200 pounds what I use for the heavier stuff, and some guys use 100 pound. I use that for small fish under 6 feet. The 200 pound absorbs a lot of the shock when he's shaking his head, plus if he swallows the entire leader, then you got some leeway where you can engage the reel. Because he won't cut it immediately, but eventually he will cut it. This is a standard shark leader that I make. I covered in plastic not because some of these guys saying that the shark can sense it and he won't take it, because I keep it from kinking and breaking itself off. So that keeps it sturdy in the joints, and that makes it for a stronger leader. I like using piano wire, but my favorite is the braided leader. That's 7 feet of piano wire with about 10 feet of 200-pound monofilament shock leader. For my biggest fishing rod, I use 480-pound leader, about 7 feet of it, plus another 7 feet of piano wire, plus another 10 feet of shock leader. Now when I'm casting and I'm surf fishing for these guys, I gotta use a shorter leader. That doesn't look that short, but that is really short. The reason being, I need to be able to cast it. Use gigantic leaders and you won't cast it very well. It won't go very far. And fishing from the shore, distance is everything. You gotta use circle hooks. I use circle hooks on all my rigs. I've used J hooks and I've belly hooked them before because I can't get to the rod fast enough. They just swallow it immediately. And so you gotta have circle hooks in most cases. It saves the fish, it has a better hookup ratio, and you lose less fish. Now the tackle that we will be using, oh by the way, you do need crimpers. You gotta have crimpers, crimp the wire. You do not crimp piano wire, you do haywire twists. And that's my favorite. I like doing haywire twists. And you gotta have something like that. I mean, they sell bigger ones, but that's $40 at a tackle store. The tackle that we'll be using, the fishing rods. This is my heaviest fishing outfit. This is the T50 Okuma. And that's what I use when I do not have a kayak, so I bribe kayakers to kayak baits out for me. I stay all safe on the shore. This is what I use for surf fishing for sharks. Casting, I cast to them like this. That is a little bit of that's the smallest reel I will use for surf fishing for sharks. I like 12-foot rods. Any shorter you can't get really far out. But when I got a lot of clearance on the beach, I do a pendulum cast. I can get it 150 yards out there with a pendulum cast. And you got to be able to cast the rods when you have when you're on the beach and you're not fishing with kayak baits. I like having both. I like having casted baits and kayak baits. Generally, the bigger sharks will be out farther, so kayak baits are always going to have bigger reels. You're going to need a rod belt. You got to have one of those. Surf fishing tackle, when you're just surf fishing, a lot of times you will not need it, but for the big boys that come around, like the big stingrays, it's a lifesaver. It saves your groin pretty much. That's the bottom line. So that's nothing expensive. That's about $20 for a Roma rod belt. And harness. A harness is not essential, but I like having one on hand just in case a big boy comes around and takes it, and you're stuck in a long haul with him. It's going to be a lifesaver. It's going to be your best friend out on that beach, and because that will save your back, and it will have you get the fish to the beach faster and more efficiently. And on to the next thing, you're going to need bait. Now, how do you get bait? Yeah, of course, you can buy it from a store, do all that. Yeah, be my guest. I don't like doing it unless I absolutely have to. The baits that go there, a lot of times you buy them at a store and they're rotten. If you insist on buying baits at a tackle store, you gotta smell the bait. Actually smell it. And if you wouldn't eat it, then the sharks most likely would not. Actually, I have had sharks eat rotten baits before, but you generally will catch more and bigger fish on fresh bait. So this is just one of the ways I catch bait, and I catch spot most of the time on this. They're little bait fish if you're familiar with them. And that's a sabiki rig. Little tiny hooks, about 7 of them. That's actually 6, I believe, on that one. But and you attach a weight on one end, attach your main line on another, and you just use a small rod. A lot of times it works from piers. I've never used them on jetties, but you can use them on surf before with big weights. Keep it down. And you catch small bait fish with that, and a spot are pretty much like M&Ms to sharks. Sharks absolutely love spot up north. That's just one of the ways I catch bait. If you insist on getting bigger baits, like for the rods that are paddled out, I like using stuff like this, just a small reel, stuff like this over here. Just cast it, or you can use spinning gear if you want. But and you catch stuff like skate, if you're familiar with them, stingrays. Down south you catch jack crevalle, different mackerel, bluefish, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to use skate, they will eat anything. I've had them eat whole, anything from little tiny pieces of squid to whole live spot and just swallow them. They will eat anything they can fit their mouth around. And they're good bait. They're also pretty good eating. I've never eaten one, but I've heard they're pretty good eating. And if you're going to eat them, fine. But they're also great bait. Especially the hammerhead sharks like that kind of stuff. So, and jack crevalle work really well too. They're kind of a universal bait when you go down south. It's kind of the bait of choice. But you gotta have fresh bait. That will catch more fish and bigger fish. And you want to paddle the baits out anywhere past 150 yards on the big rods, and that will get you the sharks over 5 and 6 feet. We catch sand tigers, and that's the big stuff that we usually catch. We can also catch bull sharks up north, and that's what we usually catch up north is sand tigers, bull sharks, duskies, sandbars, all that kind of stuff, and the occasional hammerhead. So that's just pretty much a rundown of what you'll need for shark fishing. So subscribe and you'll get more videos.